Show.
Welcome to the Bobby O Show. My name is Bob Potster, and I have a show today I think will be very interesting to you, and it certainly is interesting to me. Let me start by telling you that on August 25, which is a few weeks from now, of 1988 was a very significant date in my life, and that date ties into the show we're having today. I was a member of the Shelton Board of Education, where I used to live. I now live in Richfield, and my chairman of the Board of Ed was Paul Ellis. And regrettably, on that day, in the summer of August 25, 1988, there was a double murder-suicide in one of the elementary schools. Luckily, school was not in session. The town of Shelton, which is a close-knit town in those days, 25,000 people more or less, was devastated. And we didn't know how to deal with the grief that was shocking to us. Remember, in those days, the person who died, who's Darrell Ellis Jr., who was the spouse of Paul Ellis, was in his mid-30s, had 3 young kids. So what we all did was we went to their house on Sylvan Avenue, and about 400 people went to the front yard, and we just all cried together. And if you ever go to Shelton High School, you'll see a little statue in front of the new Shelton High School, which has a little statue about Darrell Ellis Jr., and we called him the Peacemaker, because that's who he was. So how does that tie into today's show? I have 2 fantastic women who they said the category of what they do is called social emotional learning with an emphasis on mental health. But a lot of what they'll do, and they will tell us what they're doing, involves grief counseling. Ladies, Christina,
Hello.
name please.
Hi, Christina Connors. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And to your right,
Terry Murphy, founder and chief enthusiast for Soulful Sydney.
I love the chief enthusiast.
Yeah.
So before we get into different things, and we're going to have Christina's going to sing a song for us. We have it taped on the show. Tell me what you do, Christina, first of all.
Yes, so my background, I'm a professional singer, and I have owned my own massage therapy practice in Greenwich, Connecticut for over 23 years. So I consider myself a singer who loves to heal with the voice.
Healing with the voice. What does that mean, healing with the voice?
Singing songs that touch the heart, songs like Help Is on the Way or We Can Be Kind, any sort of song that helps people feel seen and heard and nurtured, because I think music is our universal language, right? And it can be used to build someone up or tear them down. And I think that that's a responsibility as an entertainer. So any song that I sing, I want it to help people in some way, whether it could be maybe helping them through grief. There's a song that I sing in The Healing Chickadee called It's Not Bad to Be Sad. And that's an emotion that is important to be accepted and expressed through grief.
There's a Hebrew song called the Mishi Berach. The Mishi Berach is a song for healing. And whenever I have a friend or family member, whatever, who needs healing, whatever, I will send the version of the video from Deborah Friedman, who's since passed away, singing the Mishi Berach. And every person I send that to will call me back and say, or write back to me saying, that song was so uplifting. And if you ever get a chance, and I'll send you the link to that song, it's very good, but it ties in. That's why I asked you the question of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that Mishi Berach is a very significant thing to people in terms of trying to get over it. Look, we can't change someone's health situation. We can't bring back Darrell Ellis Jr., but we can at least have people use song to feel better. And as you said about how music's a universal language, I'm thinking of that song, the movie with Richard Dreyfuss, dun 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 dun. Remember the spaceship came in, whatever it was called?
Oh, Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
There
one
you
of my
go.
favorite movies ever.
There you go. So I tied in. So I did a little work for you. Terry Murphy, who are you?
I am by trade a nuclear medicine technologist, but I met this beautiful lady about a dozen years ago and felt an instant connection to her. Have you ever met somebody and you knew they were going to be in your life for a long time? And I heard her sing, of course, and that just blew my husband and I love listening to her sing. And we knew we were going to do something together, and so we would go to dinner, we would go to lunch. Sometimes it was a place that had white, beautiful tablecloths, linen tablecloths, and sometimes it was a burger joint. But we sat together and created something called the Soulful Forest. And
What's it, the Soulful Forest?
The Soulful Forest, yes. And we sat there together, the two of us, and we came up with Mindful Mountain, Garden of Gratitude, the Well Nest Clinic, the Tranquil Tree, the River of Resilience, the Pondering Pond. We came up with all of these things and we said, now what do we do with them? And we didn't know. And so you were talking about grief. One of the first things that we did together is called the Healing Chickadee. The Healing Chickadee is a grief program for children because when I was 10 years old, my brother died.
We're going to get to that in a second, okay?
Sure.
Because I want to bury the lead a little bit. But what I don't want to do is be a tease.
Oh, okay.
And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to have the song that was sung by Christina played right now to give us an intro, and we'll come back to your story because that's a very important central thing of today.
Okay.
Christina's song, please, directors.
There's a voice that's softly whispering inside my head, telling me I'm gonna be alright. It keeps saying, let yourself be led where you are led. Don't hold back, don't put up a fight. It tells me, trust the wind, breathe the air. There's a place you're meant to be, and you're already there. Open up your heart and let life in. You know that you can always trust the wind. When the world starts doing things that I don't understand, and I search my soul to find a reason why, in the dark of night I feel somebody take my hand and tell me you don't even have to try, for you can trust the wind, breathe the air, and know that there are helping hands around you everywhere. Open up your heart and let life in. You know that you can always trust the wind. Dreams have wings, thoughts take flight. All good things are streaming toward us every day. They hear our prayers, they know the way. I'm gonna trust the wind, breathe the air, let it take me on its wings and carry me somewhere. I'll open up my heart and let life in. I know wherever breezes blow, wherever winding rivers flow, I'm going where I need to go. I can trust the
That was awesome. You wrote that song?
David Friedman wrote it.
And we're going to have David Friedman and you on a show of mine in a few weeks, right?
That you will.
And how'd you get to do that song? How'd that get together?
That actual song is on my album. My first album I recorded in 2017, and it's all of David Friedman's songs. So there's, I think, 12 songs, and that was one of them.
Now, Terry, how does that song connect to what you folks do?
Well, the first thing that we did with the Soulful Forest is we created the Healing Chickadee, a grief program for children. And it has been now already over 1,000 children have received this in grief centers across the country. And it starts out with a little plush chickadee, and it arrives to the grief centers, and each child gets one. But what they really get is connection and communication through the group of birds called the Tweethearts. And there's a lot of music. That one is really special. They use that all the time in children's grief centers. And there's also Help is on the Way, and it's not bad to be sad.
Well, I'm going to say this too. That's a good segue to what I want to read to you. And I went on your website. By the way, what does ELP stand for?
ELP?
It says ELP with grieving children after a death of a loved one. I don't know what the ELP stands for, but it's on your website.
I don't know.
But I want to read this to you, and it's going to segue into what you started talking about a few minutes ago. The title is The Healing Chickadee was created to help grieving children. Two sisters, Terry Murphy, who's you, and Deb Clark, know what it means to be children in grief. The sudden death of their 16-year-old brother introduced them to an early experience of tragedy and loss. In their acknowledgement of the lingering effects of their pain, they collaborated to create the Healing Chickadee. While it has been decades since that tragedy, in fact 2021 marks the 50th anniversary, the realization that grief has no timetable was the impetus for them to find a way to help children seek comfort when they have suffered a loss. The sisters began to think of things that would have been helpful to them and their family as they struggled to their solace and to heal the wound of loss. You know, it's interesting because when I mentioned my friend, 1988, 38 years ago, I still August 25th celebrate that, and I sent an email to my friend and his widow and the kids, and so time does not heal all wounds. So talk about now that what I read to you about your organization. Tell me how you and your sister began this, and talk a bit louder from a microphone, okay?
Oh,
please?
you bet. Christina and I really started working on this together. It's like, how can we reach children? And of course, hers is music. David Friedman jumped right in because he's the kindest, most generous soul I know. And we have a young lady named Tion who did videos for us, and she did all of the artwork, and we put together a Tweetheart page. So there are 12 videos by different birds called the Tweethearts, and they're little videos that help families.
What you're talking about?
Yes, exactly. And they help families. There's a video, Birds with Words. And what this does, and they've told me this in grief centers across the country, is that they will take a particular bird, they'll look at the video. Dee Dee talks about shock. No, even if you're expecting a death, it's still shocking. Pete the Painted Bunting, he talks about rituals, and that opens up conversations to talk about what was the funeral like, what was, what is it that we did, what could we have done different, and how can we celebrate the life of this person from now on. Kenny, of course, talks about sadness. Fiona Flicker talks about fear.
We're going to get to these in more detail. I just want to get this over the overview. We're going to come back to this.
Okay.
Go through those in detail. But how did you take the idea that you and Christina had to take that into this video, this photo, and what you do for kids? Christina?
Well, I want to say, so Terry and I created the Soulful Forest, this map of all these places, these zones, and the Healing Healing Chickadee sprung from that. And I think it's, we had a conversation once over lunch, and I had lost my brother 7 years ago.
Oh, sorry.
He was 47, thank you. And around that time is when Terry and I were chatting about the Healing Chickadee, and she had asked me to be the voice of the birds. So I'm the speaking and the singing voice of the Healing Chickadee. And it really was timely because it was also a time when I was working through my own grief process, having lost my brother suddenly. So, and yeah, it just it was almost, we didn't plan it, we trusted the wind in regards to unfolding how the Soulful Forest was going to get out there, and it just so happened that the Healing Chickadee was the first program. I had lost my brother, and and it just really naturally, came together. So
You know,
But
as an
we
attorney,
created, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
Go
but we
ahead.
created those stories. I thought about, as a 10-year-old, I tried to go back to being a 10-year-old. What did I need to hear? What is it that would have helped me and my family? And I decided, let's just take some words. And then I just wrote little vignettes. And then we have this wonderful Tion who put videos to it, and then her music, and it came together very organically.
You read my mind, because I was going to say that as an attorney who does a lot of divorce work in my career, I went to several seminars that talked about the cognitive issues of what a 4-year-old child, for example, understands versus an 8-year-old child versus a 16-year-old child. And those seminars were really important to me because as an attorney, even though I was pre-med for 2 years and decided not to become a doctor, it was important to understand that you got to talk to a 4-year-old different than an 8-year-old. So in talking about what you just said, for either of you ladies, how is it that you take into account the difference in the cognitive understanding of a child? Some people wouldn't bring a 4-year-old to a funeral, for example, some might. So how do you, let's go, both of you comment, Christina first, about how you take into account, if at all, the difference in the cognitive abilities of the child you're dealing with?
Well, I think what's interesting, so Terry and I, once again, she did the Healing Chickadee, and I was inspired to create another type of program, which was Christina's Cottage. And Christina's Cottage is actually for preschoolers. And to connect with a preschooler is completely different.
Is that it?
And those are the love bugs. So in the...
Not in the studio, but on the screen.
No, yes, exactly. So these love bugs and the character Buddy, which is up there as well, inspired by my own actual home dog, Buddy. These bugs and Buddy actually connect with a child that is around between 2 and about 5 years old. And so that developmentally, that's what I did. Terry wanted to work and do things for children that were a little older, which is elementary school. And so Terry had done that.
One of the things I know from being a mom and a grandma is that children are wonderful observers and terrible interpreters. So that we have to kind of go back, and when you're looking at a 4-year-old, you have to kind of get into their mind, get into their body, and see what it is that they may be going through that they can't express because they don't have the words for it, which is one of the reasons when we did the Healing Chickadee, Birds with Words, to give them the words to talk to their family, to communicate and connect. And that connection is so important in grief. When you all stood out in front of wherever it was you were standing and everybody cried together, that connection is important, and kids need to be included in that. They absolutely need to be included.
And one thing I think is important for younger kids is the littlest ones really rely on the adult in their lives to help them regulate their emotions. So what I was passionate about through the Christina's Cottage program was it wasn't just for the kids, it was also for the parents and for the caregivers. So it was really for both of them, because if you only reach the kids and not the parent, there's a disconnect there. So.
When I was a young kid, my family had bakery business from 1917 to 1974. So obviously the dog we had was named Bagels.
Oh my God.
Now, but I was very young. I'm going to guess probably 5 or 6. Who knows how old I was? But Bagels apparently was not well. And so one day I came home from wherever I was, maybe I was in kindergarten or whatever, and Bagels wasn't around anymore. And I was told that Bagels just ran away. But that was my parents' way of ultimately finding out of the fact that Bagels passed away. You know, and so it talks about the different approaches you talk about in terms of how you deal with kids at various ages. So how do you get your message across? How did you come across? Now you had this great idea about needing grief, and you had been through, you were a nuclear, what was it topic? You were a nuclear medicine technologist.
Yes.
So you weren't in school to be a psychologist or mental professional, but that's something which you deal with all the time. And we in our society today, God knows, we need mental professionals more than lawyers, that's for damn sure. But so how'd you take these ideas, and you met Christina, and tell me what the first formal step was, either one of you.
The first formal step was to become a nonprofit. Because we needed to get funding for this sort of thing. I was taking it out of the family budget. My husband was not happy about that. We'd have been calling you if we'd have kept going that way. So we started the nonprofit, and then we got a couple of grants, and then we were able, I'm pretty bold. I got on the phone with grief centers and said, I have this thing, can I send you a sample? And then the next thing you know, people are saying yes, yes. And so that's how that started.
And to whom, Christina, do you send this? Is it a video, or how does it work?
Oh, we send out the, we send out the Healing Chickadee, and we send out 20, 30 at a time to the grief centers, and then they distribute them, and then they use the program. They use the music and the birds with words. There's activities, coloring sheets. They all have their favorite tweet hearts, and that's how we
So
have
they
gotten.
get the
That's what we,
little,
yeah.
the plush bird, right, in a box that they
Oh, it's
actually.
physically, but I thought you
it's
did the
a
video.
little, no, it's a little plush video. I mean, it's a little plush bird, and and you squeeze it, and it tweets, and yeah, and it's in this little box. Kids are very tactile.
Do we have a copy of that?
I will get one for you if
Okay,
I
you
don't have it for you.
okay.
Yeah.
So so you literally send that out. And how about the songs? How do the songs get circulated?
That's on the website. They click into the Tweetheart page, and that's where they have all of the resources. And when we send out the little box with the little plush bird, there's a note in there for the parents or caregivers that says all of this is on the Tweetheart page, and it's a love letter from us to them. And the feedback has been extraordinary. And one of the great things about getting older, and there's not a lot of great things, the segue from nuclear medicine technologist into something like this without a psychology degree was based on me getting back into that 10-year-old person. What is it that children need? And the great thing about this age right now is I can reach out with my experience, strength, and hope to do things that benefit others.
And what you do could be very helpful in Sandy Hook 13 years ago.
Yeah.
You weren't around in that.
We were just starting it at that time, just starting it.
I asked you the question about how you began moving the Tweet Hearts thing in the society. And I have a little thing that I went through the website because I do my homework. And it says here, I think it was from you, Terry, we launched Soulful Sydney Explorers. That's from you? Yes.
Soulful,
Diversity. So we launched Soulful Sydney Explorers Diversity at Edmond Town Hall on July 15, 2018. That's 8 years ago, with the Honorable Senator Richard Blumenthal. He's a great guy, and he was in attendance. It was an event that brought together people of many faiths to celebrate. So it's an interfaith thing, because grief doesn't only affect one religion or the other, it's everybody, our shared humanity. And that would have been after, I guess, 5 years after, more or less, Sandy Hook. And it says here in the notes I found that after a successful launch, our team has been to libraries and schools throughout New England. So you actually visit schools and libraries. Tell me about that.
We're the Soulful Grandma Brigade. I live at Heritage Village, and this group of women, we still have so much to give. Lots of them retired teachers, and they were itching to get back into the classrooms. So we have gone into the classrooms, and we're there to support teachers and administrators. I'm a huge, huge fan of teachers. Teachers they're my heroes. They're amazing because they love these kids. They don't just teach because they want to teach. They love these kids. They throw their heart into them. So we put together a program that with the music, and that's what we did. That's how we've gone into different places. We also created, Christina and I, a book. And the book is called Soulful Sydney Explores Diversity. And that was one of the things we
launched. Too fast. Say it again. What's the book slowly?
Soulful Sydney Explores Diversity, because there is tremendous prejudice, religious prejudice in our world. And I was raised by a family that human beings were human beings. Every faith and color of skin are still kin. And so I wrote a book with my sister Deb, who also is part of the Healing Chickadee, and a young girl from the mosque in Newtown. Her name's Mariam Aziz. And she had experienced so much prejudice and hostility that the three of us, two old Catholic women and a young Muslim girl, wrote this book, Soulful Sydney Explores Diversity. And that's part of what we take into schools all of the time. And it's beautiful. It's beautifully done. And it's got Christina Connors. One of them is We Can Be Kind. One of her best songs is We Can Be Kind. And there's nothing better than a group of kids singing in unison, We Can Be Kind. It's a sing-along. It's amazing. That's what we do.
I told you before the show we were not going to discuss politics. I don't consider talking about equality and diversity as being political. I believe that to be our Constitution of the United States of America.
Right.
We the people. Let's say it again. We the people. It doesn't say which kind of we.
Right.
And so even though you brought into it your discussion, I don't consider that to be politics because that's being a society that looks to protect all of us. Because I think there's only one God as far as I'm concerned, but no matter what your religion is. So that segues into, I have a list of some examples of where you have presented your activities. The JCC, which is the Jewish Community Center of Greater New Haven, hosted a Celebrate Diversity Special Author event to honor Martin Luther King Day. Do you remember that? What was that about?
When the book first came out, Miriam, young Miriam, she's now grown into a young woman. I don't even recognize her anymore. Absolutely beautiful and still very committed to helping people understand that every faith and color of skin and we're all kin. We were invited to all kinds of events, whether it be a Martin Luther King Day. We were invited to different churches, and in the book itself, it really celebrates all religions. And again, for me, it wasn't a political move. It was really about the way I was raised, that all people are all people.
That's how I was raised.
Right, and so when I knew that this young girl was experiencing prejudice and hostility, I thought we can do something about this. So my sister Deb, who's an extraordinary poet, the three of us, the collaboration was really beautiful. I'll send you the book.
You will be on the show again with Deb. Maybe we'll invite Deb. I don't know if we'll get a word in edgewise if the two of you are able to do that.
I know.
But I see also that you did a presentation. Let's see, Adopt Israel in Newtown. You hosted they hosted something for you. The Hudson Montessori School in Danbury, the Trinity Church in Newtown. Miriam, your sister, Miriam and Terry participated in a Young Authors Conference Writers Workshop at Westchester Community College. All these Daniels Farm schools. So you've been all over. You were guest speakers at Choose Love. What was that all about?
Choose Love. That was. Gosh, you're taking me way back. I'm having trouble remembering that specific event. I'm sorry.
Okay, but what type of event would have been?
It would have been about every inclusion. It would have been about inclusion of everyone. You know what I mean? I just don't understand why there's these people and those people, and if they're not us, if it's not us people, it's those people, and those people are bad. And I just was trying to. My sister and I and Miriam were trying to create, and Christina and I were trying to create something that really brings us all together. Connection. That's all about connection.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I was on the Board of Education. You mentioned education. My daughter's a teacher, special education teacher. My wife's a retired special education teacher. I spent 15 years on boards of education, 9 years in Shelton and 6 years in Richfield. So I'm with you in the importance of education. And being all together, I was involved in a controversy when I don't think it should have been a controversy, but in Richfield when I was on the Board of Ed, we allowed 501c3 entities to use our schools for free. Well, then the Boy Scouts of America came out with a program homophobic. And I said, wait a minute, how can we let the Boy Scouts use our schools for free? So it became a whole controversy about whether they would sign, and any group would sign, a non-discriminatory document to get their free use of the schools.
Gotcha.
We ended up getting a policy in place while I was on the board to protect the rights of non-discrimination, which I thought was important. When I got off the board, I'm not sure what happened, but so the three of us are on the same page about we are all people. Any comments, Christina?
No, for sure. I mean, I grew up in West Hartford, Connecticut, and we had, people from all race, religion, all around me. So I never really I didn't know any different, to be honest with you. I really didn't. So this has been quite shocking, in the most recent times when it seems to have been becoming divisive, and it's got to change. We need to turn back time, or we need to go back to just remembering that we are all connected, and that we all need the same thing ultimately, to be seen, to be heard, to be loved and included, everyone.
And what you're doing for the children, young kids, et cetera, we as people need to do, we the people. My perspective is that because our President Trump, we've been allowed to make those kinds of nasty things be sort of more accepted. And we have to go back to like our generation and your generation, all of us, to the idea of, hey, we are all people. When you go to a baseball game, to me it's hypocritical that in the Red South, of our country, the Alabama University football team has a lot of African American players, but then the people down there don't support freedom of speech and freedom of everything. So the thing is, what you're doing, grief hits everybody. Talk to me a little bit about something called a Soulful Grandma. What's that all about?
The Soulful Grandma Brigade.
See the smile?
Sorry, that's Terry.
I get so excited.
She gets so excited.
It's a group of women at Heritage Village, and they are complete. They help me pack the birds in the boxes. They take things to the mailbox for me. We go into schools. One of the songs that Christina sings when we go into the schools is "We Can Be Kind," and you actually just used a phrase from "We Can Be Kind," and I can't remember what it is, but we can be kind. We can take care of each other. Tell me the words of that song, because it really helps us understand exactly what it is we're doing. We don't do politics, we don't mention anybody's name. We just talk about what it is that we elevate. And tell them a little bit about We Can Be Kind.
Yeah, so the chorus.
You can sing it now if you want.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
you can tell the words.
So the chorus is, we can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. I mean, to me, that chorus is the message right there.
I'm moved by, first of all, we had talked about I wouldn't make you sing today, so that was voluntary. So that's the second promise I broke today. Thank you for singing, you sound beautifully. What does that song mean to you? How does that ring true to you?
It pierces my heart, to be honest with you, because to me how could we not do that? I don't know, it's so when people don't do that, it's like, what?
Right.
And so, it's like that golden rule, do unto others as you want done unto yourself, or do unto others as you want someone to do unto those you love. Yeah. I think, and so many people have just kind of forgotten that. And it's a powerful chorus because it just brings us back to human nature. We all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to feel important. Everyone. Teachers, healthcare workers, and the kids. Everyone does, from the adults to the kids.
No man is an island.
Yeah.
Hemingway took it from, I forgot who wrote it. But the thing that's interesting to me is that what you just sang ties into what we're talking about, but it's not just a grief thing. It's,
No.
It's more than that. Talk about that, please.
Well, because when we came up with this idea of the soulful forest, we knew that a lot of things were going to manifest. A lot of things were germinating, and she had Christina's Cottage, and the Healing Chickadee was incredibly successful. One of the things I wanted to do, I have a beautiful stepdaughter who has struggled with substance use disorder. So we have created part of the soulful forest is going into rehab places where women have children, and the children come in and they end up, we've put together a program, and we utilize the songs, Help Is On the Way, from places you don't know about today, from friends you may not have met yet. I don't sing a note, but I do a really good job.
Even in the shower?
No, of getting
Your husband's in the studio. I'm going to ask him that question if she sings.
I do a great job. We have created these programs, and her talent and the fact that I don't sleep at my age, we just get this out to lots of people in lots of different circumstances because we need to connect. We need to connect.
Communication.
Yes.
I've done many shows. I've 131 shows I've done on The Bobby O Show. I've had at least 25 to 30% mental health professionals who talk about different aspects of mental health. I had someone on my show last week was someone who talked about, what was it? It was called financial infidelity. And I said, what does that mean? And that was talking about how spouses, for example, don't communicate about spending money and how it becomes issues. And there's so many different facets of mental health that deal with our society, and quite frankly now with the problems we're having in our country, mental health is so critical. And so what you're doing with the song you sang and the platform you're using, Terry, is very, very, very important. Any comment before I go on? Okay.
No, that's great.
Okay, thank you. I like to be great. Thank you. Can I say it again one more time? Can I have that? I want to go back to the phrase that you told me was very important, Terry, which was social, emotional learning with the emphasis on mental health. So that's not solely involved and connected to grief. No. Tell me how you handle getting involved in that kind of mental health assistance.
This is Christina, and I look at her smiling. We have got
she has a great smile.
Oh, she is.
Oh, that's a great smile. I like that smile.
Absolutely beautiful.
You can thank my dad. Every time people would say I had a nice smile, my dad said, I'm taking credit for that. I spent a lot of money getting that smile.
You must be seeing my
and
dentist.
My voice, he says, too.
Perfect. So you took voice lessons?
Well, I went to school I went to college. I went to the Hart School of Music, University of Hartford. And my dad said that it's his hard-earned money.
Music is a great thing.
You're gorgeous.
My father was a great saxophone player. And
nice.
I think it was generation skipping because I was never that good at music, and my son is phenomenal. He played the bone in high school, the trombone, and he plays guitar. In fact, he played football, so I think you're on the same side of the brain with football In fact, they wanted him to sing they wanted him to play the national anthem during the football games. And I said, hey, Matt, why don't you, before the game, go in your uniform and play this at the trombone? He gave me a response that I could not say in this show right now, but you can imagine what that response was. But music is a great thing as you started out this connection of the show. So you want anything further you want to say about that?
This is very exciting. This is something new for us. I think teachers have a certain amount of social emotional hours that they have to teach for children. There's part of the curriculum that has to go to that. So we took the Soulful Forest and we took our experience, I'm much older than her, as the Soulful Grandma Brigade and going into the schools. How can we support teachers in that? So we're taking the concept of the Soulful Forest, the music, and we're actually manifesting it into a school here in Connecticut. They have a small courtyard. So we've got a little mindful mountain, we have the tranquil tree, we have the river of resilience, and it's all on the Trust the Wind Trail. And we've written a book. It's got her dog in it, Buddy. And Buddy sneaks into this school. I can't wait. Oh, there you guys are. That's so cute.
What's that picture of?
It's me and David Friedman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that school you're referring to, the Doolittle School?
I'm not sure that they want to announce that yet.
Oh, I'm
but,
sorry.
But no, that's okay. That's okay because I've got their privacy. I'm sure they're going to want to make a big announcement when it all happens.
I made that.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm sure they're a very forgiving group of people. But yeah, we've put this together, and it's got a book, and we're working with the PTA, and we're working with the counselor, and a group of birds called the Tweethearts at Heritage Village. The Soulful Grandpas made a bunch of bird houses. They donated that to the school, and every Tweetheart in their courtyard is going to have their own birdhouse. So. When something starts rolling, it really starts rolling. And she and I are on the phone 8 times a day with different ideas and putting things together. And the unity in community has been amazing.
Unity in community.
Yes, people have donated.
What's unity in the community mean?
Well, it's everything that Christina's doing. Christina calls friends of hers and says, we need help with the landscaping, we need this, we need that. And the unity that comes from that community of people volunteering, when you tell them you've got a great idea and it benefits children, they jump right on board. And then she smiles at them, and what are they going to say? No.
They're going to say, my father spent a lot of money on my smile. You're from Southbury, you're living in Southbury, and Rick Richardson, who is involved in, his family's involved in Justice Southbury. I've spoken 3 or 4 times there, and they've been on my shows. In fact, Rick's going to be on a show, I think it's September 17th, I think it is. I'm going to have his whole family talking about that. Have you ever performed or told the group about what you guys do at Southbury
Yes,
Justice?
I've been there, and we read the book, Soulful Sydney Explores Diversity, and that went over, and of course I gave out free copies to everyone because it really highlights exactly what it is that they're trying to do. It was never meant to be a political, and I come down on neither side because I'm really just focused on kids and being of service. Every day I wake up and I say, thank you, God, and how may I be of service? And then there's nothing partisan about that, and then I go about doing. And then I get on the phone with her, and we make a day of it.
Have you sung there at the Justice Southbury?
I have not.
You should do that. But I want to call you on one thing, and that is this. You've mentioned politics, and many of my guests don't want to get involved in having politics. I'm going to disagree with you, if I might. I think that protecting people's rights and make the world better for everybody, not just the billionaires and trillionaire, et cetera, isn't political. And I think we as a country, I'm not criticizing you by any means.
I know.
But we as a people have got to have, I put on my sign, it says, I support the rule of law. There's a Yiddish word called chutzpah, the guts. We can't just let the anti-establishment, anti-good things get all the discussion. I'll give you an example. Jack Smith, who did the investigation on Trump, he didn't talk throughout the process because he was being respectful of his activities as a prosecutor, whereas the other side was all over the place. And so I think it's really important, and again, I'm not criticizing anyone, but I think, forget if people think you're partisan or whatever, protecting people's rights, protecting people with grief, and helping people, that's what, I think if you believe in God, I think what God would want us to do that. Any comments? I mean, you could throw a rock at me if you like, Christina, or anybody.
Well, Christina, she and I have talked about this. One of our prayers is, what is mine to do?
I'm sorry, louder please.
What is mine to do?
What is mine to do?
What is mine to do? And if mine was to be, they asked me to be on a committee in Southbury, and I said, I need to stay nonpartisan because I need to focus on what it is that I need to focus on. She and I are about unity and community and creating that. And if that ends up serving one party or another, that's not our concern. We ask each other every day, what is ours to do? and then we follow that heart. We trust the wind on that. Did I say that
Trust
right
the
for
wind.
us?
What does that mean, Christina, trusting the wind?
Trusting, you know, I mean, I believe, of course, when you want to create something, you obviously have to move your feet. You got to do whatever you have to do. However, there is a flow to life, and I think that first you do what you need to do, and then you have to, at some point, allow life to unfold as well, because otherwise, you know, it's almost like manipulating, you know, and you really have to practice being patient, and you have to just listen and be open. And it's amazing. Actually, I think I just posted on Instagram the other day, and it said my dreams for me, and it was like this little flower, and then it said God's dream for me, and it was this like beautiful flower that unfolded. So, like, once again, the Soulful Forest started out as, you know, this idea on a piece of paper, to then digitally, and then all of a sudden Terry's, you know, walking down the hallway in this elementary school, sees a 10,000 square foot courtyard, and says that's where the Soulful Forest is going to be. Terry did not make that up. She didn't say, today I'm going to walk down the hallway and notice a 10,000 square foot courtyard. So to me, it's the openness creates the opportunity to be able to see things you might not have seen if you were just thinking that you had to do everything. You know what I'm
Something
saying?
you wanted to say, Terry, on that?
Yeah, and we're here today because we trusted the wind. There have been so many times in the last dozen years where she and I were like, yeah, we're going to go in this direction. This is the way we're going to go. And then the harder we tried, the more the door closed, and we thought, oh, this is terrible. But it wasn't terrible. It was because we needed to go somewhere else. And we learned throughout this process, you and I, as our friendship and as our partnership has grown, we trust the wind. And so we stopped knocking on doors that we can hear them clicking shut behind us, and we know that we need to go in a different direction.
When you were saying the door closed, what do you mean by that? What would give me an example of something closing? Not necessarily the entity involved, but give me an example of something door closed. Because what you're doing, what you're pursuing, is a great. It's a mitzvah. It's a good deed. So tell me an example of how the door closed.
There was a woman that we were working with. We tried to create this program with her. I mean, boy, did we try. Every time we just came up against such friction, and we just weren't on the same page, but we kept trying to make it work because we thought that's
what kind of friction you got?
She had a completely different direction that she was going in. It was something about mindfulness.
I know, she did not want us to bring the word soul into the school.
Yeah.
And we were like, but we are the soulful forest.
Yeah.
So then we ended up actually changing it to the mindful forest for her. And then that internal navigational system that I have in my, you know, like my nervous system was like, doesn't feel authentic. I'm now deviating from my authenticity. And Terry as well. And so long story short, we ended up just falling apart because we were not in alignment with who we are and what we felt deeply within our spirit. And it just collapsed.
Yeah.
You know, I should tell this story. I'm thinking of the movie The Green Book. Have you ever seen the movie The Green Book? The Green Book was about a very famous pianist who was African American, who was going to go down to the southeastern part of our country and sing. And he hired this mafioso type to be his driver. And they were, I think they were in Alabama. And there was the last performance, and the pianist was going to play. But they wouldn't let him, they being the host, wouldn't let him eat dinner with the white folk. And so there was a whole discussion, and he finally said, you know what, I'm leaving, and he left the thing. So my point is, sometimes you're getting pushback from people who are trying to stop good deed. What's the old expression? No good deed goes unpunished. Sometimes you, like you said, you have to walk away.
Yeah.
You know, you can only go so far. You can only do so much, and if you're going to waste your energy on someone who doesn't want that, then you have to go somewhere you could be effective.
And
Any
I remember
comment?
we had a little bit of fear around that. It was like, oh, well, now what do we do? But then that was where Trust the Wind came in, because there was that moment of, well, if we're not doing that, what are we doing? And that's where you get prayerful and think about it, and then commiserate 100 times on the phone, and she sings, and I write. So, and then from there, things have just taken off, especially in the last couple of years. The last couple of years, a lot of great things have happened.
And think of all the people, I'll direct this to Christina, think of all the people that you helped doing it your way. What's Frank Sinatra, do it my way? Doing it your way, and maybe a few people got their noses ruffled. Any comment about that, about doing your thing and helping people the best you can? And you know, what's the old story about a guy there's a flood, and a guy is on the roof of the flood, and a police car comes for him, and I'm not going with him, I'm waiting for God to help me out. Next to the person goes to the helicopter, I'm not going to do that. And then he dies and goes to heaven, and he says, God, why did you let me die? And God said, what are you talking about? I sent a fireman, a policeman, and a helicopter, and you turned it down.
Right.
Any comments?
Well, one thing that I'm very passionate about is staying true to myself and true to our mission. And another thing I've understood is you do not need to convince anyone of anything. Like when we're talking about getting some funding for the Soulful Forest project that we're working on right now, you don't need to try to convince anyone. And the people who have stepped up, like Freddie, a good friend of mine, Fred, he owns Freddie and Company Fine Landscaping. And I approached him in regards to helping us transform this courtyard. And he just said, I'm on board, how can I help? And anyone that we've asked who have stepped up that way, we do not need to convince anyone. And I believe with all of my heart that as long as we stay true to ourselves, true to our mission, we do not need to force anyone. It will happen, and it is happening.
Yes.
And we are going to have a ribbon cutting in September. We have this incredible Soulful Forest program that we're working on in this school, and it contains 3 pillars of support. The first pillar is the installation, so it's literally going to be like a living sanctuary. We're going to put all the zones in. We have a reflecting pond, which is actually a koi pond, that has a little fountain, which is the River of Resilience. We're getting a Mindful Mountain mural. We'll have.
Is that it?
Yeah. So that's the third pillar. So the first pillar is the installation. The second pillar is the music, the book that Terry wrote with the characters, and then David Friedman and I are putting together a 13-song soundtrack for this project. And the third pillar, which is my forte, my passion, my most, what I'm really excited about is my caregiver sanctuary. Once again, I'd mentioned before, yes, we need to help the kids in their mental health and their well-being, but we have to support the adults who care for them. We have to, because it's a unit. And so the Caregiver Sanctuary is an online platform that I've put together, and it's more of a community platform for teachers and parents, caregivers and healthcare workers to have a place to go to get their morning fill-ups, to have their end-of-day wind down. It'll be either a song or a podcast or a meditation, something to support them and their well-being as they are going to work or home or to school and taking care of others. We cannot pour from an empty cup, and that's my piece. That's that third pillar. So I believe in my heart that between these 3 pillars, the sanctuary, the actual living sanctuary, the books and the music, and this caregiver sanctuary, I believe that this is new, it's exciting, and it's needed now more than ever.
You can't pour from an empty cup. What does that mean?
Oh, this is her baby. You, as parent, as a mom, as a grandma, you have to have your mental health in order and your social emotional health in order to be able to help kids, I think.
Well, I've had this one person on my show 12 times, Michelle Phillips, who's written books. One is called Happiness is a Habit. The other one is called Energize Your Happiness. And her themes, which I couldn't say as well as she does. So Michelle, if you're watching the show, I apologize, but essentially her theme is that if you want to help others, you can't help others until you've helped yourself to make you be the best that you can be. And also you mentioned before, I'm trying to think of this quote from Abraham Lincoln, when you said you can't force things to happen. I don't have the great quote, but I'll send it to you, but it's something like, if you plant a pear tree and try to rush it to develop pears, you'll be disappointed. But if you're patient and wait, it'll fall into your lap. Now he said it much better than I, believe it or not, but that's a quote that ties in to things you're talking about. I thought when you talked about you can't pour from an empty cup, you're talking about fundraising and how you do what you do. And it was tying into something I was going to read from your resume, which is, you said in your, you were a founder and chief enthusiast of Soulful Sydney, Inc. And one thing you said was, quote, founded and lead a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting children and families impacted by grief, trauma, and substance use disorder. Now, how do you go about doing this? It costs money to buy the little tweets, what do you call them?
Yes.
The, the chickadees, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about fundraising and getting things done? And since you're nonprofit organizations, both of them, right? You can mention your website if you'd like, very slowly. Give me your website very slowly, twice.
Healingchickadee.com. Healingchickadee.com.
So how do you get the resources so that you're not pouring from an empty cup? Like that, I listened.
Grants, scholarships, and donations. I didn't know any, as a nuclear med technologist, I didn't know anything about grant writing or doing a presentation in front of places that would fund. And I learned how to write grants, and people, like you say, you don't force it. When you just show them what you've got, they end up coming to you almost.
Do you do fundraisers also?
I do really bad fundraisers. They are friend
Wait a minute,
raisers.
bad, which means that they're not fun?
They're fun, and you end up raising friends, but I tend to, that's not been my forte. Grants and scholarships and donations. Whenever I have a fundraiser, I end up spending just about the same as what I make, but I have a good time. I learned that that's not the way to fill up our cup. I learned that.
So in terms of fundraising, it's really your own thing. Don't you have Christina sing a few times and have people pay $10 or $20 to listen to her? You got to do fundraising. So
Okay.
people, and if people want to find out more about your organizations, they can do so. If somebody is involved and has a child, let's say, for example, and doesn't really know much about what you do, and they get your name from somewhere, to help a child they have, or if a mental health professional needs help, do they contact you through the website, or how do they get a hold of you?
And to hear all of everything that's going on, our most recent project is ChristinaConnors.com. Christina Connors, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N-A, Connors with
Christina,
an
I
O-R-S.
always spell Christina wrong, and different people haven't spelled.
Yeah.
So it's C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N-A, Connors, C-O-N-N-O-R-S.
Yes.
You're not married to Jimmy Connors, right, the tennis player?
Which is kind of funny because my dad, he passed away 3 years ago, but his name was Jimmy. And my dad looked nothing like Jimmy Connors, the tennis player, and people used to go to him in the airport. Oh, are you the Jimmy Connors? My dad would say, "What do you think?"
Well,
it's
you know what the tennis player's problem was? That your father didn't spend the money spent on you on his teeth.
That's right.
We only have a few minutes left in the show. I told you it was going to go very, very fast, and there's a lot of things you wanted to raise. So I'm going to give you each a minute to talk about anything that we haven't talked about today that you think is important for my viewing audience to know about. Anything about music, we'll hold off to your next show, Christina, but anything you want to talk about that I haven't raised so far that you think is important to get the message out to the people?
I think it's really important that we...
Louder, please.
It's really important for everybody to just figure out how to be of service, because I think that feeds your soul and brings you joy. And I think if we were to reach out to one another just a little bit, it really would make the world an incredibly different place. And when given the opportunity, people come in and they are more than happy to help pack birds, to raise funds, to do whatever it is, or donate. And everybody wants to help, and we need to remember that.
If you build it, he will come?
Yes.
What's that from?
Field of Dreams? Field
No.
of Dreams.
If you build it, people will come. And so you need volunteers to help you as well?
Absolutely, yes.
What would the volunteers do to help you out?
Oh my gosh, there's so much that they can do. One of the things that we're really going to need them to do is go into schools and take our Captain of Kindness program into it, and the Soulful Forest program, the social emotional program. That's what we need.
Well, you know, I happen to have done shows, of course, with superintendents of schools in this area. And if you contacted any superintendents in this area and mentioned my name, they might not boo-hiss, they might say, and they might understand the programs you do, so that a lot that you can do through the school districts themselves. Christina, how about you? Anything that you didn't mention so far that you want to talk about?
Well, we've been saying the word soul, and I want to be clear. Our intention with the word soul is state of unconditional love.
State of unconditional love. Wow, that's heavy.
The Soulful Forest is really about getting back to the state of unconditional love first for ourselves and then for others. And that is what the Soulful Forest nonprofit is all about.
It is.
Everything that we do, whether it's healthcare facility, healthcare facilities, schools, pediatric offices, we want to bring people back to themselves and remind them. Because once we have that within ourselves, we can extend it to others. And that's, I believe, how we're going to make the world a better place, one soulful forest at a time.
All we are saying is give peace a chance.
There you go.
You gonna sing that one for me? No, I don't think so. But we're gonna have you sing the next time you come out with a couple of
Yes,
songs.
for sure.
I love that comment, state of unconditional love. That does tie in what we talked about before. I don't know if I mentioned it today in the show, but before the show we mentioned how someone told me the sole purpose of life should be defined what your sole purpose in life is.
Yes.
Your sole purpose, actually it was mission. Your sole mission in life is to find, S-O-L-E, to find your soul, S-O-U-L, mission in life. How does that connect?
First of all, I'm so impressed that you just said that. That's so beautiful. And that is exactly why we've gone in this direction. We couldn't have gone to a mindful forest. It's about the soul. And we want to bring people back to that soulful place inside of them. And they can do that through some of the metaphors in the soulful forest. Social emotional skills.
We're out of time today. I really appreciate you coming onto my show, and I'm
you.
thankful that you educated me, and I'll have you back some other time in the future as well, and I'm going to have you and your friend, the composer, back in a couple of weeks.
Great.
This has been Bobo Potzner, and I'm going to end the show by saying, state of unconditional love. That's my new theme. Shalom.